finishes its upload, then we'll go to this. All right, now, surprise, surprise, my syllabus isn't corrected yet. Okay, it's not been updated. I did a little bit, but not much. Okay, I'll go over the changes. But this is all being recorded, so you can go back and listen to this if you need to. Okay, at least I've got the term right. Okay, it's spring 2007 for the first mini-term. Now, the reason I say that, my office hours will change when it comes to second mini-term. It's a 3-hour course. Where is the course number, though? That's something missing, isn't it? Oh, there it is. Okay, Math 112. Okay, pre-calculus algebra. 3-hour course, and the meeting days are right. Okay, if I can get this to. Okay, we do meet Tuesday, Thursday, 8 to 9:15, and in the future we'll try to start at 8. Okay, and we'll go till 9:15. That's for campus building A, room 255, right where we are. Here's my information. If you didn't know already, my name's Charles Fowler. My email is cfowler@lawsonstate.edu, and ever since we've been registering students, I've had a few microseconds to look at emails, so I'm way behind on emails right now. I'll try to catch up when we finally get the term going well. My office is room A265. Now, let me show you where that is on this. Here we are in this corner classroom here. You go out in the hall here, take a left, go down this half flight of stairs, go almost to the end of the hall. Before you get to the end of the hall, there's a stairwell at the very end. Just before that stairwell on the left is room 265. That's my office here, right across from the orientation classroom. Okay, so that's where you can find me. Okay, and my phone number is 929-3449. Now, let me say this about calling me. Right now, if you think I'm behind in emails, which I am, I'm way behind in voicemails, okay? So if you don't get an answer, you can leave me a voicemail if you want to, but I don't know which decade I'll be before I get to hear it. So I'd say, number one, call only during office hours. Because if I'm in class, I'm not going to hear the phone, so I can't answer it. And who knows when I'll do it. So don't leave me a voice message if I'm not during my office hours. Okay, I'll tell you what my office hours are as well as I can in a minute. Okay, number two, even if it is during my office hours and I don't answer, just hang up and call again in 5 or 10 minutes. Because more than likely I just went down to the restroom or get a drink of water or move a student around or something like that. So call back. Don't bother leaving a voice message. Usually if I'm in the office, I will answer. Occasionally I'll be on another line and I can't get off in time to pick you up. So call back soon. Now, let me give you my best guess at office hours right now. Monday and Wednesday, I know I have an 8 o'clock class. I don't know if it's going to make it or not. That's why I can't update this until I know whether the class is going to make or not. I have a 9:30 class that I'm not sure if it's going to make or not. Then I have, I believe it's a 12 o'clock class that I'm not sure if that one's going to make it or not either. I've got one more class. I'm trying to think what time that is in the afternoon, but it's after the 12th. Later in the afternoon, starting around 3:30, those classes that I was assigned, I'm giving to Dr. Bryant, because our physics classes didn't make big enough to make on their own, so we're going to have to stack those. So they're going to Dr. Bryant. So I know from 3:30 on. So basically Monday, Wednesday, except for a little time, I think around 11:15 to 12 o'clock, I believe it is. That's office hours. Maybe it's going to be later when I find out if classes are going to make or not. But for right now, 11:15 to 12, and then from 3:30 until 4:45. Okay? Now, I'm usually here after 4:45, probably as late as 5:15. Okay? But officially, I'm here till 4:45. Or I may not be. I'll find out. Tuesday and Thursday. the day you're probably more interested. I have this class followed by trig, and these classes have made, and then that gets over at 10:45. Yeah, 10:45. So from 10:45 until 12:30. 10:45 to 12:30, I have office hours. Then I have a physical science class, first mini-term. When you do a science class on mini-term, that means it's 2.5 hours of class and 2 hours of lab every day. So for the next 4.5 hours after 12:30, in other words, 12:30 until 5, I will be in the physical science class, okay? And we'll be in this room, okay? So then you're going to have to catch me between 5 and 5:15, because I usually, like today, I've got to leave by 5:15, okay? Maybe not every Tuesday or Thursday, but today I know I do. Friday. Most of the time on Friday, I'm on the Birmingham campus, 7:45 to 11:45. Now, it used to be that I had the same phone number there that I do on this campus. They've assigned that office that I used to be in, because I'm only there on Friday, to a grant person, and she's not there except Monday through Thursday. So that'll be my office on Friday, but I'll have to find the new phone number. I don't know what that new phone number is. They just did it at the end of the term. So as soon as I found out all this information, I will update the office hours. That's the main thing I have to update. Course descriptions. Pre-calculus, and by the way, I didn't write this. No one here at the college wrote this. This was something that was decided by a committee of the 2-year college system and the 4-year universities, public universities here in the state of Alabama, that if we do this, they give you credit for it, okay? So pre-calculus, as the name suggests, consists of topics from algebra and trigonometry. Algebra is the 112 part, trigonometry is the 113 part, that form the foundation of calculus. This course, this one, the 112, emphasizes the algebra of functions. That is the key, okay? That's mostly what we're going to do. Chapter 1 is functions, okay? Including polynomial. That's chapter 3, functions. With rational functions, 2.6 is rational functions. So polynomial and rational functions, that's chapter 2. Exponential and logarithmic functions, that's chapter 3. The course also covers systems of equations, that's chapter 7, okay? Why did I have to do 4, 5, and 6? Skip them? That's the trig chapters, okay? So that's what you'll cover if you take trig, okay? Now, systems of equations, inequalities and quadratic inequalities. To me, that's sort of a run-home sentence, but I can't change it. Now, we're going to focus on functions. We may not have time to get the systems of equations, but I think you've already had that in Math 100, right? If those who had Math 100 or you had it in high school. So I'm not as worried about that as making sure you understand functions. That's the basis of calculus, by the way, folks. Okay, and this is setting you up, pre-calculus algebra. Now, how many of you do plan to go on and take calculus? Maybe not everybody. Anybody? Okay, good. Okay, well, all of you need to know functions, but that's the main reason we focus on functions. Prerequisites, Math 112, and then blah, blah, blah. Basically, till you get down, an alternative to this is students should successfully pass with a grade of C or higher intermediate college algebra, that's our Math 100, or have a minimum score of 21 on the Math Advanced Placement Test, that's the ACT type thing, so don't worry about that. You either scored for 112 or you've taken 100. Anyone not fit the bill? Okay, you're in the right place. The textbook, it is required. I teach from it. I use the PowerPoint from it. I make assignments in it. We work in class from it. So get your book. Now, if you want an e-book, you can do that. But this is the book. It's Pre-Calculus, 9th edition. Ron Larson is the author. It's a Brooks Cole Cengage is the publisher, Cengage. And it's a 2014 text, which means it's probably in the next year or so is going to be going to 2005, to the 10th edition, sorry. Can't swear to that, but they usually turn them over pretty fast. And the reason is the publisher doesn't make money on used books, only on new books. Am I being cynical? Probably, but I think it's also true. They don't like for these books to be around too long because then students will buy used books rather than the new ones, okay? So they will update, even though hardly anything changes, they'll go to a new edition. Now, highly recommended you have a calculator. Graphic calculator, fantastic. TI 83, 84, 83 plus, 84, any of those graphics calculators are fine. Do you have to get one? No. Okay? You can live without it, but it is helpful, and it'll be helpful in trig. It'll be helpful in calculus. So if this is your terminal class and you're not going to take anything beyond it, you decide whether you want to invest in a graphic calculator. It's helpful, but it's not required. Okay? Now, you can get the knockoffs, you know, the Casios or the others that are a lot cheaper, but the TIs, they put that in the syllabus. I didn't do the syllabus, okay? Green paper, graph paper if you like, and pencils to class. Now, if you like ink, that's fine with me. I don't have a preference. However, I'll make a confession to you. When I do math, I tend to make errors. So I sort of like to use pencil and eraser rather than mark it out with blob with ink. I don't care though. If you're a good blogger, blob it. I don't care. Okay. Now this paragraph, they say they're going to come up with a new syllabus template. It's about time. Okay. I really dislike this, but they tell us we can't touch that paragraph. Okay. All Austin State Community College students must be trained in Blackboard and use Blackboard daily to gain access to vital course information such as the syllabus, and you will read the syllabus every day, won't you? Yes, I know you will. I'm just kidding. Okay. Of course you won't. But I won't say that. Okay. It's a little overstated, and I'm making fun of it. Handouts. Now, most of the time, if I have a handout, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to hand it out to you, okay? So I usually don't put handouts on Blackboard. Okay, the syllabus I will put there, but I'm not going to put it there until I get it updated. Until I figure out what my office hours are, figure out which courses I'm going to teach and not teach, that kind of stuff. So as soon as I get that done, I'll try to get it out there. Again, handout. PowerPoint shows. Yes, I will. They're not there yet, but I will put them there. I have a DVD here. It's already in the computer. Unfortunately, it's the current one, the 9th edition. And I'll put all the PowerPoints that we could possibly use in this course out there. Probably more than we will use, but I'll put them there. They're not there yet, but I'll get them there soon. Now, I also teach from the PowerPoints. So you'll have them in Screencast-O-Matic through YouTube as well. So you'll have the PowerPoints in two places. You'll have the static form that you can look at ahead of time under, and by the way, everything here goes under content. On Blackboard, you know how Blackboard is, I don't see the student side, so I'm just assuming it's pretty close to what it is on the instructor side. When you go to the home page for this course of Blackboard, there's a series of tabs in the upper left corner. The first one is something like the home page or something like that. Either the second or third one, somewhere right in there near the top, and the instructor side is content. That's where I'll put everything. I'll put the syllabus there. I'll put my locator card. I'll put your research paper instructions. I'll put the PowerPoints. I will put the link to YouTube under content. And any other sources that students have told me in the past or that I found that I think may be useful for the course, internet sources, I put those out there too. So you can go and see those if you like. That's all under content. Okay, it's not there now. Don't email me and say it's not there. I know it's not there. I'm going to put it there as soon as I can sit down at my desk and do it, which probably will be next week sometime, but as soon as I can do it, I'll do it. Okay, PowerPoint shows. Activities. Now, sometimes the school posts activities on Blackboard, so check it for that reason. Assignments. I don't type out assignments on Blackboard, okay? What I do is during the class, I will tell you what your assignments are. Right when I finish a section, I'll tell you which problems work in that section. When we finish the period, I'll go to the end of the section we're working on and tell you which problems to do from that. So they are on Blackboard, but they are Blackboard via YouTube, via content. I mean, you go that way and you hear me say it. It's not typed out, but they are there, okay, but through YouTube. Announcements. Now, again, the school will put announcements there, and occasionally I'll put an announcement. Not very frequently. I'll tell you this, though it won't affect this class any, but just as to be a sample. I don't know if you need to know this or not, but I'll go on and tell you. I have a mild form of leukemia, okay, so I have to have treatments about once every 2 months. I usually schedule those for Friday so they don't interfere with classes, but they would interfere with my office hours, so I'll let you know that. But my hematologist only sees patients on Tuesday mornings, okay? And I have an appointment coming up either a week from now or 2 weeks from now. I'll find out. They'll let me know. But it's going to be 11:20, so it won't affect this. I'll come in, teach this class, but then have to go back to the Kirkland Clinic and have my appointment. It'll mess up my trig class, but it won't affect this one. But those kind of things I will put as an announcement. I'm hoping not to have very many of them. I try not to miss class. If I know I'm going to miss it, I'll put those announcements out there. Try not to. Grades, okay? It's going to be a while probably, hopefully not too long before we start getting your first grades. Toward the early part of the term, I usually get the grades in pretty quickly. Once we get to registering for summer and fall term, things slow down because the last time I checked, had about 450 students that I was listed as their advisor. Now, they don't all come by, but a significant number do, and a lot of students who I'm not the advisor, they come to see me too. Anything, like I said, I'm one of the few department chairs on this campus. If they have a problem thing, they send them to me. So when we start registering, I'll slow down and generally we'll catch up grades on Friday, okay? So before that, hopefully I'll get them daily, but after that, I'll try to get them there by Friday, okay? Now, I do not like this sentence. Failure to use Blackboard could severely damage your ability to pass the course. That's such a negative sentence. I would have rewritten it, if they let me, to say the proper use of Blackboard could greatly enhance your ability to do well in the course. That's a much more positive statement, I think, closer to reality. We haven't had a scheduled book in years now, but they won't let us change this. So, but there is training available in Blackboard. It's mostly online. But if you need some hands-on training, we can get you that, okay? Now, I do not like the last sentence either. Students should always check Blackboard announcement page prior to coming to class. Why would it say that? Comma, to check to see if the instructor has canceled class. Now, that's the only reason I can imagine for them to say you always check it before coming to class. I'll tell you now, I've just said it before, I'm going to try to be here every day I can, okay? Now, if there's an accident on the way in, I'm not going to be able to hit anything on Blackboard, so I can't put anything. If I get really sick right before that, more than likely, I'm not going to feel like putting anything on Blackboard. If it's something I know about, yes, I'm going to tell you in class way ahead of time. So usually, I try not to miss class. I'll tell you ahead if I am, but if something emergency comes up, there's not going to be time. I will try to call Miss Glass or somebody, and they'll put something on the board. All right, enough of that. Student learning outcomes. Whoa, too much. All right. Students will identify, analyze, graph, transform, and combine functions and determine inverse functions if they exist. That's Chapter 1. And by the way, in Chapter 1, I don't see many books yet. In fact, I don't see any books yet, okay? In Chapter 1, Section 1.1 talks about rectangular coordinates. Hopefully you're familiar with those. We're not going to do that in class. 1.2, graphs of equations. If you had a math 100 or 098, any of those you graphed equations. Now, if you don't know how to do this, ask me, okay? We'll take time to do it. And 1.3, linear equations in two variables. Those are all things hopefully you've done before, okay? If you haven't, we'll go over whatever you need. So we're starting in 1.4, and guess what 1.4 is? Functions. This is the algebra of functions. That's where we began. We'll do 1.4 through 1.9, okay? So 6 sections in Chapter 1, and basically that first student learning outcome describes what's in those 6 sections, 1.4 through 1.9, okay? Students will divide and find zeros of polynomial functions and work with complex numbers. Okay? That's chapter 2.1 through 2.5. Most of chapter 2. Now, I'll mention complex numbers, but if you go back to the course description, complex numbers weren't even mentioned. Okay? So I'm just going to introduce you to them. We're not going to spend a lot of time on them. Okay? I'll tell you what they are and what, but you're not going to be tested on them. Okay? So 2.1 through 2.5. Students will find domains and asymptotes of rational functions, analyze their graphs. 2.6, rational functions. Okay? Student learning outcome number 4. Students will graph and use graphs of exponential and logarithmic functions and use the properties of logarithms and solve, that's another one, isn't it? Solve exponential and logarithmic equations. That's chapter 3, 3.1 through 3.4. Now, seldom have I gotten all the way to 3.4, okay? Maybe occasionally, but not often. We'll try our best to do so, okay? And then students will solve systems of equations and inequalities. Again, that's chapter 7. Now, seldom, if ever, I've gotten to chapter 7, but if we do, we'll only do 7.1 through 7.3, okay? I think I'll put the PowerPoints out there through 7.5, but I don't think we'll ever get there, okay? You've already had systems of equations. If you have any questions, I'll go over those with you. Students will write an library/internet-based research or application paper on some topic in pre-calculus. I'll talk about that next because that's another, I have a whole slide for that, so, or a page of that, so we'll go over that next. All right. By the way, if you have any questions, please stop and ask me questions. Okay. All right. Now let's look at the course competencies, which are very much tied to those student learning outcomes. Hopefully you'll see that. And by the book, too. Chapter 1, identifying, analyzing, transforming, combining functions and inverse functions. That's exactly what student learning outcome number 1 was. Okay. 6 sections we're going to cover, 1.4 through 1.9. 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. When we finish those 3 sections, I'll give you a take-home quiz. Okay? Then at the end of section 1.9, we'll have an in-class test. Okay? Take-home quiz up to the first 3 sections, and then the in-class test after the 6 sections are finished. And that will cover the first 3 and the last 3. The test will. The quiz covers just the first 3. Now, quiz is take home. You've got books, internet, anything you want to use for that. When you're taking your test, though, it's a closed book test, but I do allow you to have a formula and equation sheet. Anything you want to write on a piece of paper, you can have with you during a test. Okay? Anything. Okay? So, that's at the end of 1.9. Chapter 2. Quadratic and polynomial functions, synthetic division, complex numbers. We're not going to do too much on that. We'll just introduce it. Zeros of polynomial functions and rational functions. Okay? And again, there's 6 sections here, 2.1 to 2.3. At the end of that, I'll give you a quiz, take-home quiz. At the end of 2.6, we'll have a test. Okay? In-class test, formula and equation sheet. Okay, chapter 3, exponential and logarithmic functions and their graphs, properties of logarithms, exponential and logarithmic equations. If we have time, I think that's what I said, 5 sections of that. Yeah, after 3.3, if we get that far, I'll give you a quiz and at the end a test. Seldom have we had a full test on that. And chapter 7, if we get that far, linear and nonlinear systems of equations, 2-variable and multivariable linear systems. It says partial fractions. If we have a chance, we'll do that. Okay? And systems of inequality. The only reason for that, we use partial fractions in calculus. That's Cal 2, so it's going to be a while, so I'm not too worried about whether we get there or not. The research and writing assessment, that's your research or application paper. We'll talk about that later. And then there will be a comprehensive final examination. That is a competency that means everybody will take the final, the comprehensive final, because that's one of the competencies. So I appreciate the fact if indeed you have all A's in everything, don't ask me, can I exempt the final? No, that's one of the things we use to measure student learning. So we need to have that, okay? So make all A's, and then the final will be a piece of cake for you. Okay. Hopefully one you like. Okay. Maybe it's a marble cake. It'd be really hard. No, I won't say. Okay. Let's talk about how I evaluate these things. Okay. Now, I had a student in my Math 100 class. It wasn't Nick. Okay, but I'm sorry, Nathan. His last name is Nicolosi, and I call him Nick. But I don't know. I'm sorry. Nathan. It wasn't Nathan. Okay, it was somebody else. This was right there in the syllabus at the end. I don't think my grade is average right. You know, I made that. Pay attention to this. This is how I grade. It's in the syllabus. It's going to be. The paper is required, not optional, not droppable. The paper is required for the course. It will count as a quiz score, but that quiz score can't be dropped. A take-home quiz will be given about midway through each chapter. I already said that. Those are take-home online. Your paper is take-home. You do it at home. Okay, you use whatever resource you have. Okay, what I do, I will drop your lower quiz score if it helps you. Okay, but not the paper. I will not drop the paper. Okay, the lowest quiz score may be dropped, and the remaining quiz scores and the paper score are averaged together, and that's called a quiz average. Okay, that quiz average should be pretty good. You should do well on your paper. You should do well on your quizzes. They're take home, right? So that should be a pretty good score. If that quiz average is higher than your lowest test score, the in-class, sit-down, formula equation sheet test, if it's higher than your lowest test score, I will replace your lowest test score with the quiz average. Okay? Now let's take a scenario I hope never happens. Okay? You don't turn in a paper. Guess what? That's a 0. Can't be dropped. Now I'm not going to drop your lowest quiz score because you're going to need every quiz score you can to bring up that 0. Okay? But still, your average may not be very good. So if that quiz average is lower than your lowest test score, I'm not going to replace it. You know, you're going to use I'll use whatever helps you the most. Okay? That's why I have mays and, you know, that kind of stuff in there. Okay? May be dropped and replaced by the quiz average. The comprehensive final exam will be given and it cannot be dropped. That means you cannot exempt the final. You will take the final. So, it will count either as 1 or 2 test scores. Now here's what determines that. Okay? Quite often, I'm covering new material right up until the end. So therefore, quite often it happens that your final chapter test we haven't had time for. So quite often what happens is, in the final exam time, normal tests are 1 hour, hour and 15 minutes, you know, but basically hour test. By the time we get in, call roll, pass it out and stuff, you have about an hour, okay? The final exams are allowed to be an hour and 50 minutes, okay? Basically close to 2 hours. So what I do, if we haven't had a chance for that last test, usually the first hour exam for your final will be the last chapter test, and the second hour will be your comprehensive. In that case, it only counts 1, okay? Because you have the chapter test as a 1 hour test, and your comprehensive as a 1 hour test. Now, if it turns out that we have time to do all the tests before the final, and then the final will be a little bit bigger and longer, and cover more material, then it will count as 2 test scores. But even then, and that I don't know if it's ever happened with me, but even if it were to happen, I'm not going to count it twice if you make lower on the final than you did coming in. Then I'll only count it once. I'm going to do whatever I can to give you the best grade possible. Okay? Except I'm not going to average the quizzes in with the final and with the test and give them all equal credit. That's what the student who was emailing me. My average of all my things is, a 89.7 and you gave me an 88, you know. Well, no, if you look at the syllabus, this is how the grades are calculated. Okay, so the average of the quiz average, remaining hourly test, if I drop one, and the comprehensive final, which I will not drop, that determines your final grade for the course. Okay? And then with that final grade, if you're in the 90s, you get an A, an 80s, B. You know the drill. Don't go here, okay? Because a D or an F, you're going to have to repeat the course. Okay? So if at all possible, get your grades up. Do your work. Do those quizzes. Do the paper. That's almost, it won't guarantee, but it will give you a good shot at being able to pass the course and do well on your test, of course. All right, attendance. I'll try to do this so it doesn't scoot off the top of the page. Okay. Students are expected to attend class for which they are registered, okay? If you're unable to attend class regularly, regardless of whether it's an excused absence or not an excused, I don't care on that. If you're not here, you're not going to get the material. Now, sure, I record things. I put them on YouTube and that kind of stuff, but you can't ask a question there. I mean, you're at home alone, you know, and you can't ask or find out. But it's better than nothing, but try to be here, okay? If you can't be here, you might consider withdrawing rather than making a poor score. So you have to keep up with that, okay? If you can't come and you do poorly on things, a withdrawal is better than a D or an F, okay? Academically, it's far better. Now, financial aid-wise, it's still better. And here's the deal. Federal financial aid, you will usually pay for you to repeat a class once. So if you have already made a D or an F or withdrawn from this class once, usually it will pay for it the second time. It will not pay the third time. But guess what? If you make a D and F on the second time you're taking the course, you're going to have to take it again anyway, okay? And then, even though you're having to pay for it, you'd have to pay for it with a withdrawal, but it doesn't hurt your grade point average. So please, folks, consider that. Now, I'm not pushing you to withdraw, but don't let poor attendance leave you in a D and an F or anything else that's going to hurt your grade point average. Okay. Withdrawal from class can affect eligibility. That's what I was talking about. And it can prohibit progress in nursing or allied health. I don't think many of you are probably in those, but if you are, you have to check with your advisors there. So before withdrawing, see your advisor, see financial aid. You know, but guess what? If you're going to make a D or an F, whether you withdraw or make a D or F is not going to matter financially. It will matter grade point because of withdrawal doesn't hurt your grade point average. A D or an F does. Unless, of course, you have a 0.7 and the D would actually bring it up. But hopefully you're not in that boat. Okay. All right. Now, I didn't write the syllabus, so I don't quite go home with all this here. Makeup work, makeup tests are generally not given, it says. Unless, I put this in, we could change that, unless arrangements have been made with the instructor, that's me, prior to the missed work day, like the missed test day. If you know you're going to miss a test, let me know ahead of time so we can make some sort of arrangement. Now, if you get sick that morning, you know, I understand that, you know, come in and make it up. But generally, only 1 week will be allowed to turn in work to make up that test if such arrangements have been made, except for unusual circumstances. Now, let's just imagine that one of you is a National Guard or Army Reserve or something like that, and you have 2 weeks of training coming up right in the middle of the term. You can't help that. So, yeah, am I going to hold you to 1 week? No. You know, when you get back, make up the work, okay? Lateness. All classes, believe it or not, we'll try to begin promptly on the scheduled time. There will be sometimes, like this morning, when I came in, I had to go with Human Resources to get in touch with a adjunct instructor who I had told she could teach a course this morning on the Birmingham campus at 9:30, but then late yesterday, classes got canceled. I had to move people around, and someone else wound up with her class. So I had to get in touch with her to do that, so that's one reason I was a little late getting started with all this. So things do happen. Like you say, I've already been interrupted once this morning. Sometimes I can't walk in the hall. I get stopped in the hall, but we'll try to start on time. And after today, hopefully it'll go better. So try to be here on time, be prepared for class, and we'll get going. Now, I think, are all of you Lawson students, you've been here before? Any of you brand new? You are? Okay. All right, we'll go over this. Discrimination and harassment. You're going to see these in every syllabus you ever see that we have here, something like this. The College Alabama Board of Education, I'm not going to read all this. Let me just get to it. We don't condone any kind of discrimination or harassment. We don't tolerate it. We try to deal with it as soon as we find out about it, nip it in the proverbial bud. I have been here close, I think this is my either 19th or 20th year. I've seen practically none. Okay, I'm not saying that nothing ever existed, but I sure haven't seen it or even heard of it. Now, the closest I came, and it's really neither one discrimination or harassment, but it's just an example. We have an automotive program, and that brings in a lot of young kids right out of high school that aren't really sometimes too serious about college. I hope I'm not, insulting anybody, but that does happen occasionally. And we had one kid one time, he happened to be in one of my math classes, and he got bored one day in between classes and just started walking across people's cars in the parking lot. Okay, I never saw the kid again. Okay, he got yanked, somebody caught him, yanked him into the dean's office, and after a short discussion there, he was off campus, never to be seen again. Now, they didn't bury him or anything. They just said, you're out of here, and you're not coming back, okay? And he hasn't. So hopefully he's grown up and done well in his life. I don't know. But that's sort of how we deal. We do give people fair hearings and all that kind of stuff, but we don't want this to happen. So here's what I ask of you. If you see, even sense, there's some type of discrimination or harassment happening, maybe behind the scenes, something that an instructor's not going to see, please let us know. We want to deal with it. There's usually some sort of underlying problem there. We want to get to the root problem, deal with it. We don't want it happening on this campus. Okay? I want to point something out here. Will not be tolerated. Is never tolerated. You get the idea? Okay. So please let us know. And I don't mean to be scary about it. We give people fair hearings. You get a shot. We try to work with you. We try to, get things to work. But we don't want anyone being scared to be here or uncomfortable being here. Now, Americans with disabilities. This is not quite the same thing, but there are some similarities here. We want you to be in a situation that you have the optimal chance of learning. That's why you're here. Okay? So, the deal here is, it's the law, okay? If you have any type of disability. Now, I'm hard of hearing. You'll hear me ask you to repeat your name or say things over and over again because I'm hard of hearing. So I'm sort of sensitive to that type of thing. I've had students I've seen in the back squinting, stuff like this. I hate to see it, but guess what? I can't do a thing. I can't assume you have a disability. And this actually happened. A gal sitting one of those two desks right in there. It was the first couple of years I was teaching here. It was a Math 098 class I was teaching then. And I had given the first test. She had been here every day. She seemed to be following things. She seemed to take notes well and stuff like this. When I went to grade her tests, she wasn't doing as well as I thought she would do. Somewhere bottom of the first page, somewhere on the second page, something or another, all of a sudden an answer made no sense whatsoever. How did she get this? So I always go back and, if I can, check the work, if you turn in your work, and I look, and she had copied the problem exactly, perfectly backwards. And I went, dyslexia, but I couldn't say a word. Because I cannot assume the disability exists. You have to. It's the student's responsibility to bring in the appropriate disability documentation. And don't bring it to me. I'm not a disability specialist. We have some. Dr. Renee Herndon on this campus, and I want to make sure that I've got the right name, is Janine McCoy Jones on the Birmingham campus. Do any of you know her? Is she the person who does that there now? They've changed recently. I think this is the right one. But anyway, I know Dr. Herndon's here, and she's in charge of it all. They're professionals at it. They know exactly what to do. They will then let me know. So what I did, I ran with that test down to, she wasn't Dr. Herndon then, Miss Herndon then, and I said, I know I'm not supposed to say anything, but I just want you to look at this. And I said, now turn it over. And then she looked at it and then said, who is this student? She said, oh, she's one of ours. I forgot to send you an accommodation letter. So it was okay. Everything was fine. I did what I could to help that student be able to do well. So if you are an ADA student, the obligation is on you to present your accommodation paperwork for every class you're enrolled in. You know, Ms. Herndon, Dr. Herndon will take care of all this if you bring it to her. Ideally, that paperwork should be submitted at the beginning of the semester for you to get the best help. Now, up here under disabilities, under harassment and stuff, if you want to form a complaint that you've been harassed or that you've been unfairly accused of harassment, if you want to do a complaint, see us. We'll help you write ourselves up. We'll do whatever we can. Same thing here. If you're an ADA student and you don't feel like you've been given proper, adequate, accommodation, we'll help you through the grievance process. We'll write ourselves up if it takes it. We'll do whatever we want. We want you to have the best chance of learning. Okay, now I started, and I probably definitely things are not complete here, okay? Thanksgiving does not come this term. Okay, what I did, I got the dates done, but I didn't get all the things done over there. So I'll try to, that's where I ended trying to update this, somewhere in here. Right around here. I think I got this right. The rest of this I've got to adjust. Okay, so don't worry about this. I'll get this corrected later. That's why I don't have it on Blackboard yet, because we'll do. But basically, this is the college calendar, academic calendar. You can see it on the website. But I'll put it on the syllabus as well. Now, also I do this. I put the approximate course schedule. Whoa, too much. And obviously I didn't get this one done at all. This is still the one from last term, but this part's going to be pretty much the same. I've just got to change the dates, okay? But it's not on Blackboard anyway. If you see this on YouTube before it's over with, that part's the same. Will we get all this done? I doubt it, okay? But what I want to do, and this is my theory of teaching too, if you don't get the basics well, rushing through this, you're going to be lost, okay? So I will take as much time for you to understand functions as necessary, polynomial and rational functions, and then, the exponential, logarithmic, and the other. I'll stretch this out, but this part's pretty much done. It may not be the right dates, but this is what you'll always be. Why odd number exercises? 2 reasons. The answers are in the back of the book. So if you can't, when you do a problem, homework exercise, look in the back of the book, see if you got the right answer. If you didn't, see if you can figure out why you didn't. Second reason, this author, the best author I think I've ever seen with this, at every problem session, exercise set, sample test, whatever, at the end of the sections, at the end of the chapter, every one of them has a little blurb at the top. I'll point it out when we get there. It says, see calcchat.com for worked out solutions for the odd number exercises. So you have an online resource from the author of the book that you can see any problem that I assign you for homework. You can, if you can't figure out how to do it, you've got a resource right there. This is without WebAssign or anything else. The author provides it free. Okay? Now, I'll point out something else too. He's real good about this. Just about every example we do in class, there's also a quick check or something like that. He calls it one similar to it. And those are also, they're on a different website, but it's a website you can go to and see how to do those two. So, a lot of support. Okay. And not much time. Okay. Let's just end this quickly. Once I get the syllabus corrected and get it on Blackboard, then if you will see this student acknowledgement page at the end of the thing, and if you have any questions, ask me. If not, print your name, sign your name, and date it, and turn it in to me. Or you can even just extract it and email it to me. That'll be fine too. All right? Any questions? Okay, next time we're not quite ready to get started on math, but we'll start with the research paper, and we'll do some on safety, and I'll tell you about my locator card, you know, when I'm in class and when I'm not, that kind of stuff. Hopefully I'll know more Thursday than I know today, so we'll get it done. We'll see you on Thursday.